In Exodus 33, we find the Israelite liberation leader, Moses, pleading with God. Moses knew what it meant to feel defeated. The Bible says that Moses was a friend of God. God would speak to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend. God describes the people that Moses led as stubborn and rebellious, a massive, newly liberated nation of ungrateful and unfaithful people. They whined at every speed bump. They embraced idolatry when Moses' back was turned. Miracle after miracle marked their story, and yet a grumbling spirit and an adulterous heart defined them. Moses was their leader. He knew God intimately, and yet leading one more day seemed impossible. In Exodus 33, we see Moses at a breaking point of despair. He pleads with God, he questions, he wrestles repeatedly, and finally he begs God, "Show me your glory." And God hears Moses' cry. God mercifully responds, and with the covering of his gracious and loving hand, God reveals a stunning glimpse of his glory. I wonder how my life would be different if, when my heart cried, "Why, God?" I could learn in desperation to ask God, "Show me your glory." If my wrestling and despair would lead me to the person of God and not just his explanation. If why God could turn into, "God, I want to know you." Recently, I had the opportunity to work with a professional photographer, not just someone who owns a nice camera, but someone who makes a living, feeds their family on capturing photos at weddings and concerts and corporate events. When he arrived, he had a couple of large cases of gear filled with lenses and tripods and special lighting effects and a whole bunch of stuff that I don't understand. Every tool had a unique job. Equipment came out of the cases and was assembled. A scene was created. It was fascinating to observe. Once everything was in place, there was one final step. If you've ever been around a photographer or videographer, you may have seen this yourself. He asked me to simply hold up a plain white piece of paper. He snapped a photo, made some adjustments. He took another picture, and then made a few other small changes, repeating this process until everything was fine-tuned and just right. He was setting the white balance. You see, no matter how nice your equipment is, you can have the nicest lens, the perfect lighting. No matter how stunning your scene is, if you don't calibrate to absolute white, then the colors won't be true. The reds won't appear red. The blues might come out purple, and the yellows might be muted. But when the camera is focused accurately on pure white, the entire spectrum of the rainbow is reflected with precision. Worship is white balance. You see, Moses understood that more than a promise, he wanted to see God. He wanted to see God's person. Show me your glory. That was the cry of a worshiper seeking to know God. Worship is white balance. In my desperation, in my joy, when I feel close to God, when I feel a million miles away, when I cry, "Show me your glory," I invite God to reveal a life-calibrating holiness. Worship is white balance. Seeking God in His Word, in His community, the church, pleading for his presence is what sets true north in our journey. Worship is white balance. May God help us to seek more than an explanation. God, show us your glory.